Hi everyone. Tonight we will cover property, plant, and equipment. These are the relatively easy area to audit because they are tangible assets with a service life of more than 1 year. And most of them, so you can actually go and touch and take a look at it, okay? And there are not that many numbers of transactions when it comes to PPE. So it is relatively easier to audit than the other revenue or other expense areas. And when it comes to PPE, there are three major categories, and they are called land. And the second one is buildings and machinery, equipment, or land improvements. A lot of people mistakenly believe that land improvements belong to land, and so they're not subject to depreciation, and that is not so. Land improvements is we can depreciate. And the last but not least, it is called the natural resources. And when it comes to depreciation of natural resources, we don't call it the process depreciation, but we call it depletion. Okay, what are the objectives of the audit of PPE? Objectives of PPE, like any other areas of audit, financial audit, it is first, you need to use the understanding of your particular audit client and its audit environment to consider its inherent audit risk, of course, including fraud risks related to PP&E. And then after that, you obtain an understanding of internal control over PP&E. And after obtaining the understanding of the internal control, you move on to the assessment of the risks of a material misstatement related to PP&E. As I emphasized last week, materiality is the major concept when it comes to financial audit. Okay, why? Because audit is not the exact science. So again and again, I encouraged you to memorize the definition of materiality. Okay, so let's do it one more time. Materiality is the magnitude. This is the definition by the FASB. Okay, materiality is the magnitude of an omission or misrepresentation of financial information that, in light of surrounding circumstances, makes it probable that the judgment of a reasonable person relying upon the information would have been changed or influenced by the omission or misrepresentation. Okay, so basically materiality when it comes to financial audit is the magnitude of the mistakes. Okay, there are two mistakes made by the client, which is one, omission of their financial information. The other one is misrepresentation of the existing financial information that will affect the judgment of reasonable financial information user. Okay. So once we did that, we move on to now designing phase of test of controls. In modern auditing, without internal control testing, simply we cannot continue doing audit because there are most of the modern businesses is too complex. So there gotta be dependable internal control, and auditors depend on the internal control too. So to depend on the existing internal control, you gotta test the client's internal control too. Okay. So to do that, we got to design test of controls. And then once we are satisfied with the test of controls, we move on to the substantive procedures of audit. Okay. And the steps of these procedure is, number one, substantiate the existence of a property, plant, and equipment. So we substantiate the existence. Okay. Number two, establish the completeness of a recorded PP&E. Okay. And number three, and then verify the cutoff of the transaction affecting PP&E. And number four, determine that the client has the rights to the recorded PP&E. So they say these PP&Es are on our books, and then we gotta verify whether they actually legitimately belong to your client. And number five is establish the proper valuation attached to the PP&E. So basically you verify the accuracy of the numbers. And the last, determine the presentation or any other disclosures are proper and appropriate. Okay, so based on these, we can design our audit approaches. Okay, basically, I approach two aspects of PP&E when I go out to the field work. First, when it comes to PP&E, there are two: current portion of PP&E and then non-current portion of the PP&E accounts. So we make a different approaches to these two portions of PP&E. Okay, we will continue on this next week. Okay, if you have any questions, please shoot me an email. And next week we'll continue from here. Okay, sure. Thanks.